crucial aspect of things. Oh yeah, that could be done. No problem. That's why it's here. Madhav, why don't we get this? Why don't we get some visuals in here too? So, you were talking about Prajalpa, and now there's a nice poem by Raghunath Das Goswami, and he goes through all of the main obstacles that we have in our Krishna consciousness. And for Prajalpa, his prayer is Asadvarta Veshya Visarjamati Sarvasva Harini. And what he's saying is the Asadvarta, which is talks of that which is mundane, asad, instead of sadvarta, varta's talks. Vesha is like a prostitute. Visarja, so we should abandon this prostitute. Why? Because mati, our intelligence, sarvasva, which is all of our wealth, and all of our wealth, sarvasva harini, she'll steal all of it. So this Prajalpa actually will steal our greatest wealth, which is our consciousness, our intelligence. And so if we're, a little bit business-minded, or a little bit, we're looking for our best interest, we'll be like, oh, wait a second. If I engage in this activity, all of my greatest wealth, which is my very intelligence and my consciousness, will be stolen from me. So it can help, if you sing this prayer, even daily, you can go through all of the, they have one for lust, how, it's a sach cheshta kashta, pradavikata pasha libir iha, which is wicked deeds are like torturous binding, dreadful torturous binding ropes of this material world. And then it said, prakamang kamadi, prakata pathapati vyati karai, are like stemming from lust and licentiousness, like the sexual nature, are like aggressors gathering on the open road, and galay badve, they've bound my neck, hanyeham, and they're killing me. But the iti bakabid vartamapakane, thus, Krishna's, those who show the path of Krishna, those who protect the path of Krishna, kurutvang futkaram, loudly call out to them, avati, for protection, sayata, and as a result, they twang mana itaha, they'll deliver your mind. So there's many. This prayer is very nice. It's called the Mana Shiksha. But if you study this thing, it'll help you see how, oh my gosh, he gives really nice poetry as to what's actually happening to our consciousness. How when we engage in Prajalpa, it's like a prostitute stealing all of our wealth. And when we engage in lust, and it's like aggressors murdering us and destroying us, and then there's many others too, pratishta, which is pride and ego, and so there's so much there. That one's compared to like a dancing, like outcast woman, like a very low class woman, like dancing in your heart. So there's, it's really nice poetry, and it actually like instills a nice vision for like, oh, this is dirty. This is like a dirty thing I'm engaged in here.
Well, it's like sex itself is what, 10th class.
Yeah, I mean, it's. There could be, Krishna says he is that which is by the scriptures for the sake of having children, but in any other type of sexual activity just for fun, it's very what did you say, 10th class? Yeah. It's a very low class state of consciousness, because it means that you're completely bodily immersed, thinking you're this body, they think they're this body, and then you guys are coming together simply to gratify the senses of the body with no awareness of who you actually really are, and it's just like it's such a base form of enjoyment. So yeah, naturally, when we come to a higher consciousness, we won't be attracted to this activity. But, when we're still in low consciousness, the attraction is very strong. And to the degree that we come out of the low consciousness, then our higher consciousness can arise. But we can't come out of the lower consciousness until we've actually tasted something of a higher consciousness. So we've come across someone who has a higher consciousness, and we have gotten their mercy, and they've instilled upon us a higher taste. And then the lower taste naturally is, oh, I don't want that. That's crap. I've got something good over here, So, when we start eating prasadam, we don't want all the store-bought nonsense or even the restaurant stuff, because you're like, wow, no, this is a much better experience. So similarly, in spiritual life, the pleasures of getting up early, the pleasures of having a sadhana, the pleasures of chanting good rounds, and, having a really good spiritual practice, it totally outweighs the pleasures of, temporary sense gratification, staying up late, and engaging in sex life, and listening to all the, so much is accompanied with sex life. It's not just sex life. It's not you just like, all right, we'll just go have sex real quick, and there's like a whole much build up that has to happen, and then there's all kinds of mundane talks that have to happen afterwards, and there's just like it absorbs your whole life.
The actual pleasures seem much more so fleeting.
Yeah,
whereas I notice if I do my morning programs and stuff like that it lasts me.
Yeah.
Greet deities, greet Tulsi, read some Bhagavad Gita. It has a more lasting.
Yeah, and you're totally uplifted. Whereas, like, when you engage in these other activities, opposite activities, then you're feeling dreadful. Yeah, you feel dreadful, degraded. You feel like, how have I, what am I even doing with my life? Why am I even doing this? Why do I keep getting implicated in this? So yeah, so naturally over time, you develop a higher taste. But sometimes, when we're maybe a little proud walking around, Krishna has to humble us with a new set of thing to just like keep you honest, keep you, So anyhow, we keep going through.
If you want this, sure, here, have it, but remember there's consequences.
Oh yeah, and you never, and you want to just like cheat the system. You just want to like, no, like I want this little thing, but there's so much consequence to it, and so much thing. And then also, it's very like, for instance, I don't know if I should talk about this online, but the experience of elation, that short burst, the orgasmic state, especially for the woman, it brings out this like short burst of joy, but then it leaves her feeling drained of joy, and then anyone who engages in constant sex life, then it forces the woman to turn so maliciously towards the man, actually, afterwards, because she I don't know how to explain other than that, but she gets some high, but then she, because then everything else is low in comparison, she's like frustrated for much of the rest of her time, and it's a very frustrating experience if you're a man, and you have to then associate with a frustrated woman, and it's your fault because you've tried to exploit her to some degree. And so yeah, it's just a
tangled web.
Yes, a web of just
Brahma said 3 seconds of pleasure and 18 years of
yes, yeah, I know it's a thing, but I have noticed, personally in our lives, when my wife and I finally got our P's and Q's in an order, and we made some honest endeavors in our life to be dharmic, the Lord has very, very nicely reversed a lot of the sufferings that we were both experiencing from adharmically associating. And yeah, and there's a lot more pleasure now, especially, now that the child is here, and and just
Less arguing and bickering.
yeah, no time for it. There's no time for it. I mean, I feel like always some time could be found for some arguing and bickering, but there's far less, and it forces each of us, both me and her, to not be so selfish and not be so worrying about what whatever we're prioritizing, because now the child needs a lot more attention and care, and we're both unified in trying to please the child, so it's creating harmony actually. So it's nice, but yeah, still not perfect. It's it's also it's going to be a challenge, that's for sure, for the rest of my life, or the rest of my married life. So anyhow, let's read a little Bhagavatam. Let's chant some prayers so we can get the blessings of Prabhupada, get the blessings of all the Vaishnavas, get the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in whose words we're trying to...
I love their outfits.
Yeah, this is... Everyone loves this outfit, but I don't know, for whatever reason, it's just like my least favorite outfit.
There's one that's like a lot of green, I think. I really like a lot.
Yeah.
The best,
Yeah, there's a lot of...
It's just very colorful.
Yeah, a lot of people really... but you're not the only one. Like my wife really likes this outfit. So many people, but just for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe it's all the sequins, but I'm just like... I feel like, it's like kind of like gaudy, a little bit.
The stars are a little bit.
But anyway,
The newer light blue ones.
yeah, I like some of the newer ones are all I think very, very nice. So anyhow, this is one of the older outfits. But let's chant these prayers, and I'll share them here. We know. Oh, what did you do?
You know, either do that or the one before it.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, this is good, because this is the result of what Pariksha is going to do today. But, I mean, Krishna, you have to remember, Pariksha really didn't have the nature to make such an offense, that he was guided by Krishna to make such an offense, to teach the people in general. And that really, Krishna and Pariksha had a wonderful plan and relationship. Krishna had a wonderful plan for him. But he's going to also show. So let's chant these prayers, get the mercy of our gurus and
Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupang Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devang Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Pachakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Namo Bhavadanai Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavari Ashtatari Shatarine.
I was just thinking about we were talking about the sex life, and I had 2 instances of really bad sunburn, and there's a phenomena with this type of sunburn where it's called hell's itch, and actually Prabhupada's lecturing on sex life is the one who helped me figure it out. When I first got this, it was years ago, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, and I actually got another case this past summer. Both times when I was hanging out with either this past summer I was hanging out with relatives. At a time I would never, because in Ayurveda you should never be in the sun between 11 and 2. It's just not a good time. It's not good for the health to be, especially in the summer, to be in that. So I never usually do that, but the karmis on the beach, always, that's when exactly they want to go in the sun. So I was hanging out with relatives at that time where I shouldn't have been, and that's how I got this bad sunburn. And then also 5 years ago I was hanging out with also some friends tubing down the river, and I got this thing. Actually, because I was hanging out with some old friend who happened to be a girl, but I was interested in at the time. This was more than 5 years ago. It must be 7, 8 years ago now. But yeah, when the sunburn settled in a few days later, I had this crazy itch. It's like a hellish itch, and it just gets worse and worse and worse the more you itch it. But actually the way, yeah, it's horrible. Especially I had, like, chest hair coming in, and like you could feel your chest hair growing and making every little hair, like making everything itch. It's horrible. So anyway, but the way I solved the issue is because I actually remembered Prabhupada's lecturing on sex life, comparing it to an itch, and that the more you scratch the itch, the worse the itch gets. And I had this problem the first time. I guess everything I did, I was taking cold showers, smearing oatmeal all over my body. I was doing anything to get rid of this itch, but I couldn't get rid of it. But the way I actually did it was I had to just fight and not itch it. And I remember I chanted rounds so aggressively to just like overcome this. And it worked actually. After 2 rounds, it was completely gone. And the same thing happened again to me this year. And again, but I remembered, like, oh my God, not this again. And I remembered to just aggressively chant rounds. This one took more than 2 rounds this year. But still, yeah. So, but sex life is like that itch, and the more you engage in it, then the more it itches, and the more the desire comes, and the more the consequences come. But if you can just stop, yeah, you can just stop somehow or other, cut it off, then the itching goes away, and you get very peaceful. And even myself, I felt that very wholeheartedly when my wife got pregnant. Then because even when we were trying to get pregnant, that still that desire, that anticipation, all right, it's that time again, because it's a natural, thing. But once the whole pregnancy and everything came about, it forced me to stop. And then after stopping, you're just like, oh, why were we so into this whole thing? But it's just this itching of bodily sense gratification. So if you can cut off the itch, though, you'll be nicely situated. But if you keep scratching the itch, it'll just keep persisting, and it'll keep getting stronger. And it's very Krishna calls lust, he says it's the root cause of all sin, and he also says it burns like fire. Means fire comes to the next thing, and it just exponentially increases, and it exponentially increases your your desires, and then ultimately it'll exponentially increase our sins, because we'll be completely bewildered, and yes, and then exponentially increase your suffering. So it's a very slippery slope. But like I remember I had this very practical experience Krishna gave me with this hell's itch, and it worked actually. The proof was in the pudding. I was like, just don't itch it, because I always heard that before, and I was like, yeah, but like when you have an itch, when you have like an itch, you just scratch it, because that's what I always did my whole life. But then hearing
little itches and stuff, it doesn't leave it, but
yeah,
when you have more of
yeah, if you have like something But I experienced it with this hell's itch that the only way is you can't itch it. And I was just like, oh my gosh. But it helped me meditate on Prabhupada's instruction. So anyhow, let's at least do this verse of Bhagavad Gita. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer their respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the Supreme Being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, and the Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Radyantasloya Bhadrani Vidunoti Sahitsatam. Shri Krishna, who is Paramatma, the super soul in the heart of each living entity and the benefactor, the truthful devotee, cleanse the heart of material desire of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Nashtiki. By regular hearing of the Bhagavatam, by rendering service to the pure devotee, almost all that is troublesome in the heart is completely destroyed. And love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. So this is also our remedy for this itches that we get. If the itching is coming because we're not hearing enough, the messages of Godhead, and when we hear the messages of Godhead, then our material desires will subside, and our interest and attraction to the Lord will increase. So if you're ever in a position in your life where you're very materially implicated, or you have some attraction for all kinds of material things, just maybe you should pause and hear some messages of Godhead. And then when that happens, you'll say, oh, what the heck am I doing? But really hear, because there's a difference between, that's why it's so dangerous to, rely on just the technology, because you could just check out. You can have the lecture on, but you could be checking out, and your mind could be all over the place.
Right. Like when I read Bhagavad Gita, I read it out loud, and sometimes if I think I just kind of missed what I read, I'll read it again.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah, you should really, really hear, really read with attention, do everything with great attention. Even listening in class, like I can tell. I mean, it's just you two, so I can really tell. But when there's like a whole class, I know who's in and who's checked out, and they're not really hearing. This or that, or they're just the watch. They're thinking about like, come on, I'm hungry, or when's this gonna end? But somebody who can really hear, they can benefit. So it's very important. Anyhow, let's read this. Alabda trina boom yadi asampraptargya sunrita avagyatam ivatmanam manyamanas chukopaha. Alabda, having not received. Trina, seed of straw. Bhumi, place. Adi, and so on. Asampraptya, not properly received. Argya, water for reception. Sunrita, sweet words. Avagyatam, thus being neglected. Eva, like that. Atmanam, personally. Manyamanaha, thinking like that. Chukopa, became angry. In that way. The king, not received by any formal welcome by means of being offered a seat, place, water, and sweet addresses, considered himself neglected, and so thinking, he became angry. This is going to be nice, because Prabhupada's going to teach us how we should always greet guests. The law of reception in the codes of the Vedic principles states that even if an enemy is received at home, he must be received with all respects. He should not be given a chance to understand that he has come into the house of an enemy. When Lord Krishna, accompanied by Arjuna and Bhim, approached Jarasandha and Magadha, the respectable enemies were given a royal reception by King Jarasandha. The guest enemy, namely Bhima, was to fight with Jarasandha, and yet they were given a grand reception. At night they used to sit down together as friends and guests, and in the day they used to fight, risking life and death. That was the law of reception. The reception law enjoins that a poor man who has nothing to offer his guests should be good enough to offer a straw mat for sitting, a glass of water for drinking, and some sweet words. Therefore, to receive a guest, either friend or foe, there is no expense. It is only a question of good manners. When Maharaj Parikshit entered the door of Shamika Rishi, he did not expect a royal reception by the Rishi because he knew that saints and Rishis are not materially rich men. But he never expected that a seat of straw, a glass of water, and some sweet words would be denied to him. He was not an ordinary guest, nor was he an enemy of the Rishi, and therefore the cold reception by the Rishi astonished the king greatly. As a matter of fact, the king was right to get angry with the Rishi when he needed a glass of water very badly. To become angry in such a grave situation was not unnatural for the king, but because the king himself was not less than a great saint, his becoming angry and taking action were astonishing. So it must be accepted that it was so ordained by the supreme will of the Lord. The king was a great devotee of the Lord, and the saint was also as good as the king. But by the will of the Lord, the circumstances were so created that they became ways to the king's becoming unattached to family connection and governmental activities, and thus becoming a completely surrendered soul unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. The merciful Lord sometimes creates such awkward positions for his pure devotees in order to drag them towards himself from the mire of material existence. This is actually so important, because you'll see as a devotee, it's not like, I became a devotee and I'll have no more material reversals. No, you get more material reversals. You thought you're gonna do some decent with money. Nope, you're gonna have some. You think that some material arrangement's gonna work out. Nothing seems to work out nicely, but it actually does work out nicely. It just doesn't work how you want it to work. But what happens is it drags us out of the. It naturally detaches us from those material things, and it brings us more in a position of surrender to the Lord. So it's actually very good. But outwardly the situations appear to be frustrating to the devotees. Yes. The devotees of the Lord are always under the protection of the Lord, and in any condition, frustration or success, the Lord is the supreme guide for the devotees. The pure devotees therefore accept all conditions of frustration as blessings from the Lord. So this is what we had to do. Madhav, you quoted Tatenu Kampam Susamik Shamano Bunjana Evat Makritam Vipakam Hridvagva Prabir Vidadan Namaste Jiveta Yomukti Pade Sadaya Bhak. This morning, that's exactly what the pure devotee does, that they accept this is due to they're seeking the Lord's mercy eagerly, and they accept that while everything that's come is due to my own, the consequences of my own actions. And with my heart, with my mind, with my words, and with my body, I'm making an offering unto you. And then if that person can expect the Lord's mercy very soon.
Like Shri Tirthi telling the story about when Prabhupada had his first, it was a temple apartment type of thing, whatever, and the landlord was really very, very bad person. But Prabhupada always welcomed him and treated him as nice as he could, and offered things to him and stuff. But then when Shruti says that when he was told that he passed, Prabhupada said, "Thank you, Krishna."
Yeah, that's.
Shri Kirti was like so shocked, right? Because he thought that Prabhupada, he always saw them being friendly.
But the point was that he treated this, welcomed him in and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean.
And even when Prabhupada traveled, he would carry potatoes with him just so he always had something to eat and whatever. And he put them in people's fridges or whatever to keep them. And there'd be meat in there and other stuff. Yeah. People would be apologetic. He goes, no, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the devotee's nature. They have no...
His tolerance is unbelievable.
Tolerance and no enmity, And even if that landlord was giving Prabhupada all kinds of difficulty, he would tolerate and still treat him with love, respect. But then, when the Lord took him away as an obstacle, Prabhupada can also be thankful, like, oh, that's very good.
Well, in Manawa, I watched you because my sister was sitting next to him at the restaurant, and she ordered a steak salad.
Oh.
And she even specifically asked for the steak to be bloody, and stuff like that. And you you just kind of, we made no issue or mention anything
Yeah,
about it
yeah.
and stuff.
It's yeah, it's
What can be done? Every single person there besides you eating meat.
yeah.
Yeah,
My wife still gets a little like hung up on steak, but I mean, yeah, it's just if I see it, I'm like, ew, and then just just don't say anything. I usually though,
Well, that's what
I
you
usually don't eat while others are eating, just for like my own preference. If I want to really
well,
relish
it
a
probably
meal,
contaminates too.
it could but even just to relish a meal properly, and I definitely don't want to look up and see someone chowing on some animal's flesh, or it just doesn't allow for the experience.
For me, the smell is probably the worst thing. I hate
Yeah.
smelling it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, when I was sitting at that table, I mean, from every person,
Yeah.
they're all coming.
I really hate the smell of fish. Like,
Yeah.
that smell
Yeah, that
is
was pretty
that smell is very obnoxious to me. I was a few times when we were with the family members for the holidays. I remember one time we were just sitting next to the table. I just got to move away from this table, yeah. And actually, believe it or not, even worse than meat to me is onion and garlic. I just can't stand
No,
the
I've
smell.
never been a fan of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I hate the smell of onion and garlic so much.
Onion used to always give me heartburn.
Yeah.
And garlic, everybody can't taste anything else. It's just garlic.
Yeah, no, it's but for whatever reason, that's what most people cook with. So sometimes it's just like brutal, and even
It's in everything.
No, it's
though.
literally everything.
yeah, you can't even be a vegetarian, and without it, it's
If
just
you're buying any store-bought thing that's, not like...
Well, I'm amazed too the number of Indians. Like you even go to an Indian restaurant,
Oh,
they use garlic and onions so much.
yeah, it's horrible. But yeah, it's just the nature of that's why Krishna like almost forces you to just hey, stay home and offer me something nice and
Yeah.
eat that. He kind of really forces that because if you try to cut corners, you're just gonna just come across just not as clean and happy forms of nourishment and so on, or activities you get implicated in. Yeah, it's just
Well, a lot of it comes down to why we're eating too. A lot of people, it's pure sense gratification.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they like. Whereas if you eat just to sustain the body, it's completely different.
it's a completely different experience. Yeah, that's even with prasadam, I've seen in my life many times when Krishna has showed me, do you really need this extra thing you're making? And I see it with my wife because my wife is a little bit more, she doesn't eat a lot, but she likes special items. Where for me, I eat a lot, but I don't care if it's special. I had mix it all. It doesn't matter. I just, maybe it's the man one, but she likes like exquisite little things, and I see that like she'll like put so much endeavor into getting these specialty items that she likes, and I'm not putting the endeavor for that. And she's
Probably the only thing like that I care about is like when I make paneer.
yeah.
And then I bake it with salt and some ghee.
Yeah.
Whenever I
That's
have
easy.
something.
No
But
problem.
When I
Yeah.
after I offer it, I love having it there. So when I eat other prasadam, I just put a couple pieces of paneer on there.
Yeah, it's nice. You can have some nice, specialty item. No problem. Krishna can take it.
It takes you,
And my
But if
wife,
it-
she just doesn't like. She wants some crunch or something. She didn't like the texture of a lot of the foods because they're,
Yeah,
but it's like really.
yeah. No, you can, but you have to appeal to them as well. My wife also is not a fan of a lot of, but now she's actually just because of her life is so overwhelming with the child, she's just now accepting, and now she's also enjoying much more and happier, which is good. Because for a while it was like really kind of frustrating to her. But I've seen in my life, and I've seen in her life especially, where Krishna really like he tests her and makes everything go wrong in her pursuits of these specialty items. And so
Spill something or burn something.
yeah. Even me though, I used to have like some specialty items I had to make sure were there. But then after some time now, I'm just like, you know what? what is the basic thing I need? A little bit of protein, a little bit of grain, and some vegetables, and then like I also have some cravings for some sweet. So I just mix some dried fruits and some like apples, and then I'll stew them real quick, and that's my dessert.
Well, you
You
can talk
know?
about it. I mean, he
Yeah.
had certain things he liked.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. No, you can. It's fine. It's part of the varieties of enjoyment in life. But if Prabhupada could also he could accept anything,
Right.
but if you spend all your time and energy trying to assure, making these over endeavors for you whatever relishments you like out of life, it's just it steals all of your time. So it's
And then afterward, you're like, why didn't I just chant?
yeah, yeah. Why didn't
It's
I
kind of like
chant?
an
Why didn't
itch,
I read?
right?
Why?
You're
Yeah.
scratching that itch of food.
Yeah, yeah, and lust isn't exclusive to sex. Sex is the strongest lust, but lust is the desire for any sense gratification. And then food, you know, actually the tongue is even more voracious than the genitals. Actually Bhaktivinoda Thakur he chants in his poem, uh, Jive Fali Vishaya Shagre. So Tarma Jayajvayati, among all the senses, the tongue is extremely lobamoy sedormati. It's greedy and wicked, and it's actually very difficult to control. So this is our
Most voracious and
yeah.
uncontrollable.
We chant also in Upadesha Amrita, Jiva Vegam Urapasta Vegam. And this actually is talking about the line of how the senses work. First the tongue, and then that will give rise to the urges of the belly, which will then eventually put the pressure down and give the desire of the urges of the genital. So if you can control the tongue, we're eating only prasadam, regulated. You should have I've seen in my life to have some regulated program. Okay, maybe you eat 3 times a day, maybe you eat twice a day, maybe you eat once a day, but you always eat what you need to feel nourished, and then and that's your program. You follow your program, and then you'll be good. And then
Well, my barometer is like, am I gaining any weight, or am I passing stool more than once a day?
yeah,
Things like that.
that's a good barometer.
If that's going on, okay, I'm okay.
Yeah, yeah. The stool roll is a really good barometer, because if you pass more than once a day, passing once is for a yogi. Passing twice is called a bogey, or a sense enjoyer, meaning too much, and then passing thrice is a rogi, or a diseased person. So that is the devotee barometer if you're passing multiple times. But I did want to talk about, because this was, but then I have to take this gentleman to the what's it called, the bus station. But the one thing that we have to talk about is this anger, and how Krishna's teaching through Maharaj Parikshit. But we should also know, if we find ourselves getting angry at anybody, not purely, because Hanuman, he's described as someone who's fully exemplifying Trinadapi Sunichana, being more humble than grass, more tolerant than a Turopi Hishnana, and so on. Why? Because his anger was only purely, not anything to do with any offense against himself, not anything to do with any obstacle to anything he wants, but purely, his anger is purely used only for blasphemy against the Lord and the blasphemy against the devotees of the Lord. This is the only proper use of anger. Every other bit of anger is it will lead to destruction. It is one of the 3 gates to hell: lust, greed, and anger, and they go from each other. So it's very important that we control our anger. So, Ram, good morning.
Good morning.
No, it's okay. We're gonna get ready to head out very shortly. So I just want to let's read one more verse. But even also, this is very good, because it's saying that even an enemy in the home should be treated with all respect and things. Even an enemy. So one of the things that Vedic, especially American culture, doesn't get at all, but that when a guest comes to your home, they should be like placed on like a pedestal. What can I do for them? And when that happens, even if somebody is not friendly or ideal or things like that, you treat them with all respect. But the opposite, and I've noticed in American culture, is that when a guest comes to the home, a lot of people with culture, they respect that. But a lot of people also have the idea that, well, so what? They're my guest, but as long as what I want taken care of, and maybe they can join in, get my remnants or something like that. But that's not a good policy. But even Jarasandha, a great demon, he knows the Vedic etiquette of how to treat guests properly. So what's to speak of low class people? But in Kali Yuga, we're so degraded where we follow the activities even worse than demons, great and renowned demons of the past. So this is something that should be understood.
Well, even in my lifetime, I've seen where when I was younger and stuff, it was very important. Like people came, and my parents would always make sure there was something to offer them. What would you like? Comfort them. And welcome them in.
And now people don't even. If someone's knocking on the door, they run away. Like, yeah.
Oh, great, this guy here.
Yeah. Pretend you're not home or something like that. But yeah, society is changing, and the values are lessening. But yeah, that was the prediction. It's not like it shouldn't be a surprise to us, But we're seeing it in real time, Even Prabhupada, he was noticing in the 70s how much the degradation happened in just even the past few decades before that. But now look at the 5 decades since the 70s. He wrote all these things, how much worse it's degraded. And then what's to speak of the next 400,000 something years. So
Scary.
it is scary. But let's read this last thing. Abhuta Purva Sahasa Kshutribhyam Arditatmanaha Brahmanam Pratyabhud Brahman Matsaramanyorevacha Abhuta Purvaha, unprecedented. Sahasa, circumstantially. Kshu, hunger. Tridbyam, as well as by thirst. Ardita, being distressed. Atmana, of his self. Brahmanam, unto a Brahmana. Prati, against. Abhu, became. Brahman, O Brahmanas. Matsara, envious. Amanyu, angry. Eva, thus. Cha, and. Translation. O Brahmins, the king's anger and envy directed toward the Brahmin sage were unprecedented, being that circumstances had made him hungry and thirsty. Like unprecedented, like never before seen, because the king is actually a pure devotee, but it's going to exemplify, Krishna has his devotees fall into interesting, like Arjuna fell into weakness for the Bhagavad Gita. Maybe Prabhupada will say it here. For a king like Maharaj Parikshit to become angry and envious, especially at a sage and Brahmin, was undoubtedly unprecedented, like unheard of. The king knew well that Brahmin sages, children and women and old men are always beyond the jurisdiction of punishment. Similarly, the king, even though he commits a great mistake, is never to be considered a wrongdoer. But in this case, Maharaj Parikshit became angry and envious at the sage due to his thirst and hunger, by the will of the Lord. The king was right to punish his subject for coldly receiving him or neglecting him, but because the culprit was a sage and a Brahmin, it was unprecedented. As the Lord is never envious of anyone, so also the Lord's devotee is never envious of anyone. The only justification for Maharaj Parikshit's behavior is that it was ordained by the Lord. So really, to respond with anger for a devotee is it's improper. Unless that, like Hanuman, for only when the devotee is blasphemed or the Lord personally is blasphemed. And severely, then you can express anger. But any other reason for anger, this is not a devotee-like behavior. And unless, like sometimes a senior devotee might get angry with you. It happens. That you should see it as this is ordained by the Lord, that the devotee is the representative of Krishna to show me where I'm off the beam, or even if it seems you know, like unprecedented. Like, wow, I can't believe he's angry about that. But okay, you know, like Krishna must really have.
There's some reason for it.
Yeah, there's some reason that Krishna wants me to do something. So the devotee has this type of vision. So when Maharaj Parikshit, he's going to get punished here for his anger now, because he's, and also we have to be, you know, also it was, you know, Draupadi's anger that started the whole Mahabharata war. Her anger about the insult that was caused to her. You know, when you make someone angry, this is also not good. Because then they, you know, they call this the whole Mahabharata war. But even Sita's anger towards Lakshman caused the whole Ramayana war as well. Because Lakshman was there to protect her under Ram's order. But due to her fear of Ram being, this is also of course all for Leela, but due to her fear of Ram being overthrown by a demon, she said got very angry and hurtful words she said to Lakshman, and this actually caused to the huge problem. These events in Shastra are meant to teach us not to be overcome by anger, and if we get overcome by anger, then we're going to accrue worse situations, and put ourselves in more and more trouble. And the devotee should be very tolerant, at least of one's own, you know, treatment. You know, if somebody is treating you disrespectfully and so on, you can just tolerate. You know, I remember there was once a lady who had stayed here, a devotee lady. But just one morning, just for whatever reason, due to my actions, she perceived so many things about me that I was shocked during Bhagavatam to hear it come out about me. But I just remember, like, you know, like inside I was like almost like so angry. But then
It's really kind of her problem, not yours.
yeah. Well, you know, it's also, you know, Krishna was also testing me and showing me how, you know, my activities can lead, even though it may not be 100% factual, but, you know, my activities can lead to this type of response from others. So I tried my best. Were you there for that day? Oh, yeah. So I tried my best to be, you know, very tolerant in that situation. And I got a good result from being tolerant from that situation. And even Tulsi, who was also there in that class, he came across a problem in his life, and he remembered how when someone was coming at him with a lot of anger, and he remembered actually that class and sitting there and just kind of watching me tolerate. And he said that I actually did that, and then the whole problem diffused from there. So, and that it also happened for me. You know, there was for whatever reason, some anger, and all anger it's coming from some level of envy. Actually, all lust, everything is coming from envy. Actually, all desires, everything, the material desires we have, we're envying. Ultimately, Krishna's enjoyment of this, but we're envying watching others enjoy this. You know, so if we want sex, we're perceiving that other people are enjoying sex, and I want to enjoy this sex. You know, if we want good food, we're perceiving that other people are enjoying good food, and I want this. And you know, and like it's actually all based off of envy, and that's the biggest cause of our problems. And when people get in the way of what we envy, then we get angry at them. How dare you stop my enjoyment? You know, and so it's it's a very bad a very bad arrangement. But I actually have to go. I have to bring him, and I have a call with Nrsinga in 10 minutes, so I don't know how it's going to be possible. But if we fall into anger and envy, you know, like for instance, Maharaj Parikshit, his you know, he was trying to keep his body alive. He was like starving and thirsty, you know, and he wanted, you know, his you know, body alive. But just due to the sages not being attentive to him, he you how dare you get in the way of this, and he's going to do something unprecedented that you should never do. But it's going to lead to something wonderful. But it's to teach us not to fall prey to anger, and to realize that what we're angry about it's stemming from envy. Actually, it's stemming from envy. That and it might not be that person you're envious of, but it's envy of of others who are experiencing things how you believe you're entitled to experience. But
Especially when you get older, it's easy to become envious of youth.
yes, this is
You do a lot of the same things. And
absolutely.
you're inhibited in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I've seen that many, even with Abiram, I'm finding myself like, look at all this attention, look at all this, or when I was a kid, I definitely didn't get all this. Who knows, maybe I did, but I don't think I got quite the same treatment.
Doesn't anger also arise when lusty desires are unfulfilled?
Yes. Well, and that's stemming from envy. Where's the lust coming from? It's ultimately,
To be like Krishna.
yeah. Well, it's all envy, even envious of other personalities, it's all stemming from envy of God. We want, God is the enjoyer and he's enjoying, and I want to enjoy. I'm the enjoyer. And we become envious of anyone else enjoying because we think I'm the enjoyer. I'm the enjoyer.
And ironically,
yeah.
when we give up that envy, we then do enjoy.
Yes, that is the great paradox. But we have, unless you do a Haituki Bhakti,
Don't scratch the itch.
yeah, unless you do a Haituki Bhakti, you're unmotivated. You're not going to be able to surrender that aspect of you trying to be the enjoyer. But it's very important, because you won't be the enjoyer unless you give up the abhiman, or the ego that I'm the enjoyer. So it's the symptom of that is anger. Actually, it'll come out if you're finding yourself lusty and angry. The symptom is you think you're this body and you think you're the enjoyer. And then if you can go to the root of that and just try to address that between you and Krishna, then you can have some. But if you think any other thing is the cause, but no, that's the cause. At the end of the day, we think we're the enjoyer, and then I find this a lot when I'm cooking. I'm cooking, I'm supposed to be making an offering to the Lord and things like that. But if just like one little thing goes wrong, I spilled this, I'm like, God, I get like...
That makes it me especially a lot of times. But I figured out now how I don't even spill a drop.
Yeah.
Because that used to really bother me.
Yeah, no, it bothers me too, but then I've diagnosed it, and sometimes I'll even laugh or I'll talk about it with my wife. Where I'm like, isn't it amazing? I can tolerate so many things, especially with other people. But just like one little small thing that's really not a big deal. I drop a date, or I drop this, that, and the other thing, and I'm like, But like this is, it's stemming from anger and envy. And what's the ultimate envy? That, we think that we should be the enjoyer. Life is for our enjoyment. These articles in life that I've procured are for my enjoyment. And then we'll become envious. First of Krishna, and then towards others. And then we see others enjoying. Oh, I'm the enjoyer. How could they enjoy? And that's the it's a horrible cycle. But anyway, that's for another Bhagavatam class. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki.